fellow heathens, it's Liz, and as the year 2021 comes to a close, I wanted to do a video of my top 5 decks, both tarot and oracle, mostly tarot, that I worked with this year. Now, I kind of stopped doing the practice that I had been doing in 2020, which was I was doing the Biddy Tarot workbook. And so every day you would draw a card, and then at the end of the day you would go and kind of assess how the cards played out in your day and what you learned from it. But I found this year, halfway through, that I was getting a little bit stressed out and I couldn't keep up with it as well as I would have liked. So I instead was easy on myself and just put that aside and pulled decks when I needed them. And that really helped this year to, give me a way to connect to my decks without putting too much pressure on myself to really stick to a daily practice. And I really enjoyed that because my decks, I felt like, were always there for me whenever I needed them. So let's start with number 5. Deck number 5 is the Marielle Tarot, and 2021 was still a very challenging year. The Marielle offered me a way to kind of dig into these areas that were problematic and really got down to the heart of the issue. I felt that the energy was very precise and searching. Like I felt like it searched into the areas that I really needed to look. And it helped during those times where I was willing and able to kind of delve into these places. Now, the Marielle Tarot, I'm sure you're well aware, is very raw, and it pulls no punches. So it isn't a deck that I used often, but when I was ready in those moments, this is the deck that I grabbed. And I really feel that it was healing for me to kind of look in those spaces, and with a fine-tooth comb or with a magnifying glass, in such a way that I felt supported at the same time. Like the guidebook really speaks from like a spiritual perspective. It tells you what you need to hear, but it also lets you know that everything will work out in the end, and that everything serves a purpose, even the suffering and pain that you might be feeling at the time. So the Marielle is my number 5 deck for really digging deep. Number 4 is the Lonely Dreamer Tarot. Now this kind of acts as the opposite to the Marielle Tarot. Let me explain. The Lonely Dreamer Tarot is very ethereal, and this is my favorite card in the deck completely. The star, I love it. I love the colors. I love everything about it. And it's very dreamy. So it kind of puts a wash on the message a little bit. It delivers it in a softer way than the Marielle Tarot might afford. Not saying it didn't give me meaningful readings, which it did, but I reached for it when I needed a little bit more comfort. I needed a little bit more hand holding, and I needed something that offered me a way to look at the messages with a soft lens. And that's pretty much what this deck was able to do for me. Again, this is number 4, so it wasn't my number 1 deck, but this, of all time, this is in my top 10. Absolutely. This deck is amazing. The colors, you just feel like that, almost like these images were channeled from an energy that is long gone, but still applies today. And when I needed something a little bit softer, this is what I reached for. So this is the Lonely Dreamer Tarot First Edition. Number 3, I know, a bit of a surprise, is the Crystal Unicorn Tarot. And this deck is what I reached for when I needed a little bit more of just a playful spirit, playful energy. Now, 2021 was still, for me, a difficult year, and it was nice to have something that brought me to a place of hope and understanding that even when things seem gray, that there's always light at the end of the tunnel, and that it's okay to kind of look at things in a playful way. I feel that the energy of this deck is very loving, very healing, very supportive, and it leaves you to be more hopeful. Like it gives you the messages, but almost through a child's eyes, which is full of hope and wonder. And that's kind of like there were quite a few times that the energy of this deck is what I reached for, because it gave me that opportunity to look at an issue, but not be so serious about it. So this is the Crystal Unicorn Tarot. Number 2 is the Spread Machine Oracle. Now, I've shown this on my channel a few times, and I told you how I have kind of combined the other like expansion packs, except for the Quest expansion pack, into this. And it has given me some scary accurate readings. And I looked for this when I needed something that got to the point. Like the keywords, it doesn't leave any areas of ambiguity, if you will, because the words stand for themselves. There's no imagery that you would be able to be swept away by, and the words just combined to create a story in almost like a sentence for what it is that I was looking to understand. And it kind of mirrored the things that I had thought were going to happen. I got the keywords that kind of affirmed in some good ways and some not so good ways, but I feel that it was just spot on, and I really enjoyed that. It's definitely up there in my favorites. I highly recommend it because it definitely empowers you to kind of look at the issue for exactly what it is. So this is the Spread Machine Oracle. Now I have 2 tied for number 1. That would be the Naturescapes Tarot from Make Playing Cards, I believe, or is it Printer Studio? I'll have to double check on that. You can find that in the description. And the Majestic Earth. So I would have to say number one would be the Majestic Earth, and the Naturescapes would be a very close second to that. The Naturescapes Tarot gives me like a perspective. The imagery is of course of nature, and there's no people in it. So it basically gives you an objective view of a situation. And it really helps you kind of like, there's energy in nature just in an image such as this. So for the 2 of Swords, you have your 2 trees, and it's like which, you know, you have one choice to make, but you kind of have different variables that you have to consider. And the coldness of the snow and everything, you know, goes well with the sword suit. But, you know, it's easy to shuffle. This is a linen cardstock. And it stood on its own as a way for me to kind of get an objective viewpoint from the question that I had. And, you know, I love the bag that I made for it, so it was very convenient. And the bags are soft, and so I kind of tend to be drawn more to the ones in the bags because I feel it's more comforting, I guess, to grab a bag that's soft than to grab a box. But I mean, of course, I use my cards that I still have in their original boxes, of course, but I feel like it's more friendly, like more comforting when it's in something soft like that. So I grabbed this when I didn't want to use my Majestic Earth because, of course, I'm trying to keep it nice and not use it too much. But this definitely offered me ways to connect with nature and with myself on a level that gave me a broader perspective. And a lot of the imagery like repeats itself, so you'll see snow on certain cards and you'll see pine trees, or you'll see the moon on a couple of cards and the sky and colors that might repeat. So I was able to draw along the lines across the cards as well, and I really enjoy that about this deck. So this is the Naturescapes Tarot. By far, however, my number one deck for 2021 is the Majestic Earth Tarot. There's something about the portrait style of this, the nature element here, that gives it a timeless feel, as well as the keywords. The keywords were very useful. They were very on point. Some of the keywords stood out to me more than others, so I really kind of went with those keywords as well. And I got some really accurate readings from this deck this year. And this was the one when I was in my most desperate for an answer moments. This was the deck that I went to because I knew it was going to be a straight shooter for me. I have a backup copy that I ordered this year because I don't ever want to be without it. And I actually got the extra cards that don't quite fit this size. Like on her website, she gives you the option to order the extra cards that came in the special edition, but they were like cut differently, so they don't actually fit the standard edition that I got. So this is one of them. This is the star instead of the Aurora, which was in the standard edition. But when I inserted this card into the deck, it's just a hair smaller on all sides than this deck, but it is not noticeable hardly at all. So I'm just over the moon to be able to use those special cards, like especially the Hanged Man. I love that extra card. But regardless of that, I don't know what it is, but this deck just spoke to me this year, and it was a comfort and a joy to work with. It's definitely up in my top 5 of all time, and I don't know what else to say, but I'm so glad that I had this in my collection this year when I needed it. So this is the Majestic Earth Tarot. So thank you all for joining me today for my top 5 decks of 2021. I hope you enjoyed it, and I would love to hear in the comments below if you have any of these decks, and which top 5 decks would you say really got you through this year. So until next time, I wish you all a happy new year into 2022. Many blessings to all of you. Bye. As always, thanks for watching, and if you found value in this video, please hit the like button and subscribe for more tarot-related content like this. Ring that bell to be notified whenever I upload new stuff, and don't forget to listen closely to the whispers of the heathen within that already has the answer and knows the path that's right for you. Until next time, be brave, be bold, be you. Bye.